About 10 years ago, while I was attending an electronic health records regional users group meeting, I won something that changed my clinical practice's life. And I'm talking about a piece of software called Nuance Dragon. It's a voice recognition software that I dabbled into several years prior to that, and it just didn't work well for me. Well, when I won this version 10 years ago, it changed my clinical life and made my life a lot easier. I was so much happier doing clinical documentation, which, as many of you know, is the bane of a physician's existence. Today, I have Kristi Bubrig, the CEO of Accelerated Workflow Solutions. I won this piece of software from her 10 years ago. And out of the blue, I received an email from AWS, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have not heard from you in forever. So I reached out to Kristi, and she was so gracious to accept my invitation to talk about how voice recognition has changed and how it's impacting on her clients' lives. So thank you so much for coming on the program, Kristi, and letting me discuss this with so many people who may benefit.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy.
Yeah, so I know AWS has been around for about over 20 years, and I know you're an international company helping people from pretty much over the world. So really appreciate you coming on and to discuss this. Now, for those people who don't know what Dragon or Nuance Dragon is, help us understand what that is.
Okay, so Dragon is a software that will take your text, take your speech and turn it to text. So they have versions that are medical, professional, law enforcement, legal, but we do all of those, and we also do a lion's share of medical. So there's Dragon Medical Practice Edition 4 and Dragon Medical 1, which is a cloud-based version. But both of those versions, you can speak into a microphone and the words will print on the screen. And so you can use it in your electronic health record, or you can use it in Word, or wherever you need to put your words, wherever you would type and put your cursor, you can put your cursor and speak, and Dragon will type what you say accurately.
Now, how is that different than, like, say, what's available now? Baidu, Hound, Alexa Voice, and what is that? Google Now, Apple Siri, Microsoft Cortana.
Well, just like you have, I think you and I have talked about before, you've got all kinds of cars. Some are Volkswagens, and some are your first car that you can see the ground when you're driving, and then some is a Lamborghini. And I would say Dragon Medical is the Lamborghini of voice recognition. It is the most accurate. It is encrypted to protect your patient data. It's certified for that type of data. And the cloud-based certifications are there to protect it as well. It's got like 80 subspecialty vocabularies for you to choose from, so you can choose the one that's closest to your specialty. And then also it has the probability models built in there to understand what a provider is saying, as opposed to, a different profession.
Now, some old school docs may be thinking, well, I've got somebody typing for me right now using transcription. Why do I even need to bother to buy a piece of software, learn the skill so that I can use voice recognition?
Yeah. Well, I think that the answer would be you when you use Dragon, you've got control of your note. It's done in real time. You dictate it and you sign off on it and it's finished. If you are dictating to something and you're never reviewing the note for accuracy, then Dragon's not going to save you time. You're going to roll that dice every day. But if you are reviewing that note, if you're dictating it and someone else is typing it, or if you are dictating it and sending it off for transcription, when it comes back and you're having to correct it, Dragon will do that for you in real time with you in your notes. So you look at the note one time and you're done. And you've got control over that. And the things that Dragon can do to shorten that process are amazing. They're just amazing. You can do scripting commands to navigate in your EHR. You can do text and graphic commands to put in blocks of text. It just makes the whole process a lot easier. And I will tell you, when I started the company 20 years ago, I couldn't turn a computer on at all. Didn't know how to turn a computer on at all. My children had to show me. And we wanted to make the training for what we do fun and interesting. And so it is a big part of what we do is we'll work with you whether you have computer experience or not. We can get you up and running with Dragon in record time. And it's made for You don't have to be a software programmer to understand it. You can get up and running with it, whether you've got computer skills or not. So,
Well, for me, being able to create a note using voice, it is infinitely faster than typing. I type about 70, 80 words a minute consistently on average. Some keys that get over 100 words a minute, but it gets old. I mean, every single patient, I'm typing. It makes you dread doing that extra work. And ever since I won that copy, first of all, initially when I dabbled in it, it sucked. And that was back in 2003. Yeah, around 2003, 17 years ago. And then when I won this copy 2010, I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it blew my mind. And it's gotten better since then. It allows me to finish my notes on time, contemporaneously, and I don't forget, because often, for a specialist or even anybody, you're seeing the same thing over and over. Hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, diabetes. For the primary care docs, it's the same thing. You can't possibly remember all the nuances unless you're documenting right there and then. And I see so many docs who are just constantly complaining about the charts that they have to take home to finish from last week. First of all, it's bad for medical legally, right? And number two, if you're not finishing charts on time, you can't bill. So it decreases, it slows down your revenue cycle. And it's for so many reasons, I think getting notes done right away is the way to go. Now, some people like dictating to a recorder and then sending it off to a transcriptionist to do the typing for him or her. But there's that lag. So, for instance, if I want to take the patient to the OR later on tonight, I am done with that H&P, history and physical documentation, and then it's already gone, right? It's ready to go. But if I have to wait for someone to transcribe it, my staff may have to call the person. I have to send the voice file to that transcriptionist, or if the patient, the transcriptionist is in-house, you have to communicate to that person, hey, I need this right away. And it's just so many extra steps.
Right.
When I'm going,
That's very true. That turnaround time is impacting. When you can say, print that and give it to your patient to carry in their hands, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
And being able to finish the charts contemporaneously is really, really the way to go. Now, some people use virtual scribes, but still, I have to review what is documented on my behalf, because I'm the guy who has to wear the striped shirts, right? If there's an OIG or OCR, Office of Civil Rights Violation, or Office of Inspector General from the government, when they want to audit me, and if I weren't following the rules from poor documentation, I'm the one who goes to jail. So I don't want that liability, and I'm super into efficiency. I want to be done with the chart at the end of the visit, at the end of the day, and not have to worry about it, because I know I'll forget the details.
Right. That's very true, and it is difficult. The older I get, the more difficult it is to remember the details. So, and I think that I can. When I'm writing, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'll totally remember every bit of that. But then when I go sit down, and it's hard to review. But Dragon is really good about that, and it's great to get it done in real time. There's no waiting for the turnaround time. You're not having to pay someone else to do it, and you're finished and on to the next one. And it really gives you more time in your day. It does. We hear that from our providers a lot.
What you probably have done hundreds and hundreds of installations. Can you share some stories of some aha moments from physicians who have gone through your training, your program, and your software?
Sure. We have worked with it. It's fun to us when we get a provider who says, I'm not going to use this. I hate this. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to do this training session because my group told me I have to do it. And then when they come out on the other side of their training session with a complete different idea about it, because our training is fun. We love our clients, and we like to work with folks and teach them how to use the software, and we can take it from A to Z easily. And we always create custom workflows so that when we sit down with a provider, we make the most of that time and we leave them step by step. So when we leave, if they forget a step, it's there in front of them and it's easy to do. But it's always fun to have those providers because they're also the biggest champs after they've used it and they love it. Then they're the ones that like it. And we used an example in an earlier talk about one of our clients who called us because she didn't have any time with her children, and she had 2 children, and she said, I'm here every weekend dictating. There's always charts stacked around my office. I'm always behind. I never get to go home on time in the evenings, and then every weekend I'm spending dictating. And she said, I really don't, I think the software is going to be great, but I really don't see how it's going to totally change this. And I said, just give me the time to train you. And we made one navigation command for her EHR, one. And about a month and a half later, she called me on a Sunday morning and said, I just wanted to give you a ring and let you know something. I said, well, what is it? And she said, I just wanted you to know I'm at home with my children and my documentation is caught up and my life has changed. And that is, for me, the apex, just the best,
yeah.
You know?
Wow.
We have one guy who wanted more time because he wanted to walk his children to school every day, and Dragon gave him that much time. And it's just very rewarding. Over 20 years, you can imagine there's 100 stories, but we try to make each project that we do as if it's our first project. And I know that may sound silly after 20 years, but everybody's story is different. Everybody's practice is different. Everybody's reasoning is different. Why they would even consider Dragon is completely unique. And even if we worked with, say, all scripts, we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of providers who have all scripts. We look at that workflow brand new every time.
You know what? It's interesting you say that. I've done thousands and thousands of vasectomies, and that's exactly what I try to do. Also, I literally say this to the patient that's on the table. I say, you know what? It is so easy to get complacent. Oh, this is just another vasectomy. But to that patient, it is his first vasectomy, right? Yeah. The only vasectomy I'll go through. So I make it so that it's the best experience for him possible. And they like you, they become your evangelists. I mean, they just talk you up, and that's how I became the #1 vasectomist in Arizona. Okay. Typing. I can type about 70, 80 words a minute, but speech is at 140 to 160 words a minute.
Yeah.
Dragon can keep up literally like this as I'm talking. It can keep up with transcribing at this rate. Right. So there's really no comparison. It just, once you, I guess it's just like orgasms and high-speed internet. Once you get it, you can never go back, right?
You cannot go back. That's true. That's very true. I'll have to say those analogies are quite appealing.
Yeah.
You're right about it, because you can dictate with Dragon. If you are, you just need to be clear. You don't need to mumble or eat potato chips while you're doing it. But, patient presents with multiple lacerations to the left arm, period. She also complains of chest pain. However quickly you can dictate your note, Dragon is going to keep right up with it. And effortlessly at this point. It's amazing. It used to be when we sold it, when we started 20 years ago, it was a chore, but we made it sing, because the right setup and the right training will make it perfect. It takes the headache out of it. But even then, even though it was quite cumbersome back then, version 4. So, and part of that was because technology had not caught up with the software, and part of it was the software needed to be improved. But today it is so blazingly fast that with that little bit of training and installation and workflow help, you'll be up and using it the day you're trained.
In the past, the hardware was not powerful enough. You needed a bunch of RAM. Right. I mean, you still do. Most of the desktop computers can keep up with the demands of Dragon right now. But what has improved? Let's see. It's the way Dragon looks at. Now we have more hardware power. It has the ability to look at longer, more words, so that it transcribes perfectly in context. And I think that's one of the big improvements.
Yeah, I do too. And the processor, processors are faster. Computers come with more RAM right out of the box, and that's all been very, very helpful. And now with the cloud version, you don't even have to rely on a lot of your computer specs, and it's real time in the cloud, and you can use your cell phone as your microphone. So that's something that a lot of our providers like.
So let's talk about the three. Let's talk about 3 broad categories of Dragon. One
Okay.
is just the standard regular Dragon that is voice recognition for anybody and everybody, which is super inexpensive, maybe 1/5 of the cost or something like that. And then there's the Dragon Medical Edition 4 currently, which is what I'm
Yep.
using right now. And then
Right.
there is Dragon Medical 1, I believe.
Correct.
So
Correct. The cloud version.
so let's talk about why can't someone use the standard consumer grade, or why shouldn't someone use the consumer grade in a medical office?
Right. Okay. Well, there's two big reasons. One is it is not going to understand you. You're going to struggle more with it, and they're good versions. I'm not saying they're not, but you can cut your yard with a pair of scissors as opposed to a lawnmower if you want to. So that's kind of a comparison we make with using the medical version over the non-medical version for providers. And secondly, and even more equally as important, is that the medical version is encrypted to protect your patient data. So it's not going to waft around and get picked up and shared with anybody. And it meets, the cloud version meets all those certifications, the high trust that need to be met with medical data over the cloud. So, you don't really want to get the layman version as a practicing provider and try to make that round pegs fit into that square hole, and then also put yourself at risk legally. And, get it's so much cheaper to do preventative than it is to do reparative. That's not a word I made up.
No, I totally get it. And for me, it's the frustration of saying a word such as polychronotropic and not have that word in the consumer versions of vocabulary.
Right.
So it misspells it, and I have to go back and correct it and teach it. It's just not worth my time. And people complain. Some people may complain about the cost of the medical edition. And all I have to say is, you know what? You pay for the cost of the software, the microphone, the training, and just think about how much you use that every freaking single day on every freaking single patient. If you amortize the cost of that software, it is fractions of a penny.
Yeah.
And the amount of satisfaction, the amount of happiness, and how I almost don't loathe clinical documentation, it's just priceless to me. To be able to just walk up to the workstation and say, "Wake up," and then the microphone turns on, and I just talk, and I don't have to do it. Both of my hands are free. I can use the mouse or do something else, pick my nose, whatever it is. I can do something else with my hands and simply just talk to the EHR and get my work done, documentation done. What is also super important nowadays is that in 7 months, in 2021, evaluation and management, E&M, how most physicians are being paid to see patients, that documentation will depend solely on medical decision making. That's where we always go anyway, in assessment and plan, where we make we do the cognitive work, and now we have to show all the cognitive work in assessment and plan. Right. Now, if I have to type all that out, talk about major burnout, right? It's good for compliance if I can document completely and easily, effortlessly, and also the physician will get paid what he deserves. I know so many physicians are undercoding.
Yes, absolutely. And Dragon will help with that. We've seen that over years. We've gone into clinics where just understanding how the coding works dramatically increased their income. We had one provider who's just a top, I think he might have been a urologist actually, and he was coding at a 2 as a matter of habit, and he was working at a 4 or a 5. So when we changed, we made templates for him in Dragon, and what it did was it gave him the level 4 that he was dictating, and he would look at it and sign off on it when he was done. And I told him, I said, calculate that up. How many patients are you seeing a day? Let's just say you're seeing 12 a day, unlike most providers, which are 20 or 30 a day. And I said, what is that cost gain per note times 10, 20 a day? It was staggering. It was support staff. It was, vacation money. But, it's easy to do that with Dragon, to remedy that. And that's what we do with our workflow. We look at what you're doing. How can we make that better? and how can we impact those things that'll improve your bottom line. And the thing is with Dragon, if you buy the Dragon package and the package, and it has your software, your microphone, training, support, and workflow, and that comes in around $3,000 one time for the practice edition. The return on investment on that is staggering. And the Dragon Medical One is fairly modest upfront fee of around $525, and then a $79 a month price tag. So we're not talking something that's even more than one patient encounter, and the return on it is really, really a big deal.
Well, there's something that you can't buy with money, and that is time.
Correct.
And if this thing can save me time, it is totally worth it. And I just wish, having gone through this, having been using this for the last 10 years, it just blows my mind how many people don't use it. And it just makes your life so much easier. It makes me so much more productive. It makes me so much happier seeing patients when I know I'm not burdened by having to type all this out. I started private practice back in 2007, and I did it for 3 years, just manually typing. I started my EHR in 2007, so I manually typed for 3 years before I got the package that I won from you. It was so serendipitous and so fortunate that I won that piece of software. It literally changed my clinical practice's life. I was so much happier. People who want to buy the non-medical edition, and for those who are watching, this is not sponsored by anybody. I'm not being paid by Nuance, the makers of Dragon. I'm not being paid by Kristi. I'm just doing this to share what I have gone through, and hopefully you won't make the mistakes that I made, which is manual typing, which is just super frustrating. For those people who don't want to buy the medical edition, the headache of having to train every single medical phrase, word to that piece of software, it is not worth your time. You are your time is worth so much more than to manually train a piece of software on all the medical jargon. And so much of medical school is simply to learn the vocabulary of being able to talk and communicate medicalese.
True, very true. And and we were talking about time. How wonderful is it to be able to go in and we look at your workflow, like we were talking about, how your day is. But a lot of times our providers will come in, they'll see the patient, they'll come out, they'll take the note, they go see the next patient. And the thing is, with Dragon, you don't have to go back and look at the note or brush up the note. You dictate it, you're done. At the end of the day, when you see your last patient, you're done. Go home, like other people do when they finish their work for the day. And we're talking about provider burnout, and it's a big deal. And I mentioned this in one of our talks, and I'll mention it again. My provider has been my provider. His dad was my provider before he became a provider, and they've been they're important to us. And as providers and doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners and PAs, I don't know if you're told enough how much you're loved and how much your patients love you and depend on you. And for me, if I can help any provider have more time in their day, have less burnout in their day, that makes it worth it. That makes every bit of it worth it.
Now, for those of you watching this on the live stream, feel free to leave your questions in the comments. And Karen asked, she has no idea what version that is being used in her office, but she does see an occasional incorrect spelling or the use of a term incorrectly. She asked if I proofread what is being documented. Yes, in real time, because as soon as I say it, it's literally transcribed on the screen. So I don't have to open up another chart at some other time. If I have a scribe or a virtual scribe, I don't have to go back and proofread because I'm looking at it and reading it in real time. So I don't have.
I'm sorry, John.
Go ahead.
If you correct it there in real time, it helps it to get smarter. So it will get smarter and will not be as likely to make the mistake again. There's several things you can do to make those inaccuracies go away and to make them better. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got a question. I'm happy to help with that.
And that goes to the importance of training. When I bought my EHR 13 years ago, I bought over 100 hours of training. The best money I ever spent. You do not buy a Lamborghini without going through driving school. You should not buy an EHR. You should not buy Dragon without getting some sort of training so that you can exploit all the features that it has to offer. I need more training on Dragon because I'm still learning some of the things that I can do, and especially some of the voice commands of jumping to the beginning or the end or the end of the sentence. And I know I'm not using it fully. So training is key. What else would you say are some of the more nuanced, more nuanced things that you can do to improve voice recognition accuracy?
Well, I think that, one of the things is somebody calls us and we didn't set them up from the get-go. So with us, when we set someone up from the get-go, we take a look at their system when we do the install. We make sure the installation is done correctly. The microphone is set up correctly. The workflow is done like we've talked about, in depth and correct for that provider. And then the training is done so that if Dragon does miss something, just like when you have a child and you correct it, it gets smarter and it doesn't do it again. Same with Dragon. So we make sure that all of those things are aligned. If someone comes to us after the fact, we kind of reset and say, okay, let's look at your installation first. Let's look at what you're doing. Show me what you're doing. And sometimes, one time we worked with I'll never forget this. I went to Atlanta to work in the State Department. and this was years and years and years ago. So I've gotten smarter, thank goodness. But I worked and worked trying to figure out why this person's accuracy was not good, what was happening with it. And it turns out at the end of the hour I spent trying to figure it out, it was a microphone. The microphone was a limit. So you have to just kind of look at all of those things together to see what's going to make the most accuracy. So if we don't have the opportunity to set it up from the beginning, we do know what to go in and look for quickly to try to identify what's happening. Sometimes you just need a fresh voice profile and a reset and some training. I'm sorry, did we mention training? Did we say something about it?
No, training is super important. And let's see, quiet environment. For instance, Yes. This is where I do a lot of my dictations at the end of the morning or the end of the day. I will sit here. This is a sound treated room. This is where I also do my telemedicine visits. This is where I do these types of interviews. So it's a controlled environment. So I think having a quiet environment is helpful. I have gone through a bunch of different types of microphones. The most popular one that is out there is the SpeechMic 3 right now, or Power Mic, Nuance Power Mic. It's a Power Mic 1, Power Mic 2. I use Power Mic 2. Power Mic 3 is smaller and probably lighter, but it requires me to pick up the microphone and press a button. Now, it does have the benefit of having multiple buttons that you can assign and customize. Then, that's too much work because I have to pick up something and I have to press something, right? So I figured I want a microphone that I don't have to press anything. I simply pick up. And I found this one called Philips SpeechMic LH3500 or something like that. It has a built-in accelerometer, so I pick it up and then I start talking to it. I don't have to press any button. It still has those buttons. And then that's too much work because I have to pick up something, right? Every time I have to use it, I have to pick up something. And then I switched on over to a wireless headset. Makes me look like makes me feel like Justin Bieber or Madonna. And right. I simply, by far, this was the most accurate recognition platform that I used, that headset microphone. Mm-hmm. And then that's too much work because every time I want to use it, I have to put on a headset. That's too much work. So I switched over to initially a Procaster microphone that is affixed in position, so I don't have to pick up anything, touch anything, put on anything. I simply step up to it and I say, wake up. And it wakes up the computer, wakes up Dragon, and I start talking into it, and it automatically converts my speech to text. Then most currently, what I'm using right now is the Rode Pod Mic at the workstation. These are dynamic microphones, meaning it is less likely to pick up background noise. It picks up sound directly from what's in front of it. And I'm using right now, this is the Procaster that I'm using right now in the studio. Having a good microphone is supremely important, other than controlling your environment.
Yeah. Well, and I can say this, everybody, if you ask for opinions on microphones, you're going to get a million opinions because there's a million microphones. For most of our practicing physicians, they will use the Power Mic because it's integrated with Dragon. It's already there under the options panel, and it's just a workhorse for a microphone. And unfortunately, we don't all have a fabulous soundproof room with that gorgeous microphone. But we have used this in emergency rooms, busy emergency rooms, and with the power mic, it is unidirectional, so that if you hold it correctly, and that's going to be a big deal, you need to hold it at the corner of your mouth, really close, about a thumb width away. And everybody kind of thinks, well, no, that's not that important. No, it's seriously important. Even when you're working with your telephone, if you'll get that microphone on your telephone right by your mouth and speak clearly, you're going to get every word, even weird words that you wouldn't think your phone would get, like ellipsis. Try that one on your phone. But even in an emergency room with the power mic, with people talking around us, clipboards slamming around, potato chip bags rattling, Dragon's going to get what you say in a noisy environment. Is it better to have a wonderful, quiet space to dictate? Absolutely. But do we always have it? No. But Dragon could keep up with you. I dictate on it, the conference floors, conference rooms, showroom floors, like at HIMSS, and Dragon gets every word. So you can push its envelope.
Yeah, definitely. To minimize, and that's one of the things that you learn when you do studio and recordings and things like that. You want to be, the talent has to be as close, you want the talent as close to the microphone as possible. And the way the microphone picks up, the way it sounds, the character, the warmth, and how it actually sounds to the audience is supremely important. So working with microphones and audio, I've really learned about how Dragon works optimally. And that is having that consistent distance, like you said, holding the microphone at the corner of the mouth, always at the consistent distance. And ideally, quiet environment, but you don't need it because I see Dragon and the power mic being used in the ER locally here, and it works. It obviously works.
Well, and it's gotten hardier, over the last few years, and I would even say over the last 6 years, I've seen it become more and more accurate and just easier to use and less correction. So if you're struggling with, if you've got Dragon now and you're struggling with it, give us a ring because we can help with that.
Yeah, definitely. If you first of all, the current version is really, really good. I updated to version 4, medical edition version 4, and the accuracy and the speed, the accuracy and the speed are just awesome. And it's a one-time purchase for me. So one-time purchase. It was an upgrade. I bought, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, as soon as it came out, I'm like, I'm buying it. If it's gonna be more accurate, faster, definitely. It can't be fast enough. Everybody, I mean, look at Amazon Prime. 2 days is not fast enough to me right now because, yeah, it's not. You become used to it. Like 4G is not fast enough. I want 5G, right? Yeah. And that's your consumer, your customers, your patients, yourself as a physician. You want that fast speed. It's never fast enough. So whenever that new version comes out, if it's going to be more accurate, faster, I'm getting it.
Yeah. And then in the cloud-based version also, and I can't remember if we touched on this, Dragon Medical One, you can use your cell phone as your microphone. So you're incredibly mobile with it. And each of these versions of Dragon is licensed per person, not per machine. So you can have it on multiple workstations. With the cloud version, it updates out to the cloud to your master profile directory. So and with the box version, you can install it on multiple machines. You can put your profile out on a server. So if your computers are all hooked to a server, you've got one master profile there as well.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't quite understand what Kristi's talking about, it means you can create a customized work environment in Dragon once, and you can take that work environment with you wherever you are. It could be in the ER, it could be in your clinic, it could be at home. You can use that same profile when you use Dragon Medical One. Not so much when you have the standalone version. And that's one of the benefits of having Dragon Medical One. And it's I demoed that Dragon Medical One in a noisy exhibition hall at a conference, and it was freaking amazing. It was freaking amazing.
It is amazing.
It was loud. I never used it before, and I dictated something that is just so. And I said something like this: the patient was made aware that bladder cancer may be a polychronotropic disease. Period. And it picked up every single word, including that weird word, polychronotropic. And that is the power of having the medical edition. It recognizes that those medical phrases. I don't have to go back. Oh my gosh, is it gonna know what I'm talking about? I don't have to worry about that. To me, it's totally worth it. It saves me so much time, and I don't have to worry about errors.
Well, it is truly, having done it for this long, it has never lost the thrill for me to watch a provider start talking for the first time and see that moment where you're like, look at that. I'm like, it's magic. I'm telling you, it's magic. Just like the fax machine, I'm pretty sure is magic for real. This is magic. Because it's just amazing to watch that, and that it keeps up with you no matter how fast you talk and no matter how involved your vocabulary is with your specialty terms. It gets it.
And it works with accents really, really well, especially the Dragon Medical one. The amount of technology and the natural voice processing, the language processing that has gone into Dragon Medical One, it's amazing. It's just really amazing. And now we have the processing power and the short latency now with wireless networks. You can make that a reality right now.
Are you saying I have an accent? Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying.
No, I'm the immigrant. I'm the immigrant who had to learn English. So I'm the one who has to struggle with accents and stuff like that.
Half of my family is in the South and the other half is in California. So to one side of the family, I don't have an accent. And to the other side of the family, I don't have an accent. So.
Well, it's been great chatting with you, and thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge today. And I will put in the video description how people can contact you if they want training and software support or whatever it may be. I think I bought my Power Mic 2 from you many years ago after I won that piece of software. I know I did. So that was, I ended up giving it to a colleague who works in internal medicine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it was since I upgraded to the Philips speech mic.
Yeah, well, you let me know if you want to have some more training.
Yeah. Now, speaking, we've been talking about how it simply converts voice to words. Mm-hmm. What is not often talked about is how it can, it has shortcuts. People may know about auto-replace text when they are using a piece of software or EHR, but you can make or teach Dragon to remember whole phrases. For instance, when I do an informed consent about a surgery, I can just simply say SIG consent. It will automatically type out the patient was, it'll type out informed consent process was carried out with the patient. All questions are answered to his satisfaction. No guarantees are expressed implied or whatever it may be. And it automatically puts that in. But that's not it. There's more. Right? There's more.
One for an emergency room in Australia. And you could say, the command was minor lack. So you would say minor lack, which is the name of the command, and then you could say head 3 glue. And so if I said minor lack, head 3 glue, it would put in this entire document. Monolaceration was located on the head. It was 3 centimeters in length, and we sealed it up with tissue adhesive. So it was a very involved template that was 5 words that told it the different parameters to put into the template. So because when we were working with our emergency physicians, we say, what are your top 10 things? For the top 10 things. So for Australia, that's a spider bite, a shark bite, a laceration, But so we made templates that were malleable in that way. And that minor lack template was a very, very impacting one for them, because then it was 5 words for the whole note.
And that is just the auto expand text, the auto replace text, or dot phrase, or whatever it may be. That may be built into EHRs or whichever software. There's more. There are macros that you can record. For instance, I can record the action of signing off a chart and then bringing up the evaluation and management billing section, that pop-up screen. I can simply say SIG sign off and have Dragon execute those commands for me, so I don't have to click this, click that, and select that. It automatically does that for me. And it can do a whole host of commands. But again, right, most people are not using that. Most people are simply using it for voice to text transcription, and that's it. But I mean, that's great. That saves you a lot of time and hassle, but it can do so much more.
Well, we did an 83-step command that took, I can't even remember how many clicks that was, at 83 steps. 83 steps out of a process for signing off on a note and saving and printing it and sending it to a secretary. So, it's a great tool. Having a little bit of help will get you down the road much exponentially. Would be the best part, I think.
Well, Kristi, once again, thank you so much, and thank you thanks to everyone who tuned in. I will put Kristi's contact information in the video description below. Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Happy Memorial Day.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.